Good morning, Judge Mokgohloa.
Good morning, teacher.
Are you comfortable, settled, or should I help you to that end?
I am comfortable.
You are
Thank
comfortable.
you very much.
As a person who has applied for a leadership position, you are probably aware of the role that the judiciary is meant to play in this country.
Yes.
Integrity is key. Judgment, not judgment as in a verdict or something of the sort, but reflecting properly on what one says before it is said is also just as important.
Yes, Chief Justice.
And how you comport yourself, how you relate to colleagues and members of the public is just as important. Now, as a person who aspires to be a head of court, are there challenges within the judiciary about how we judges carry ourselves about that you think needs to be addressed, that you have picked up?
I don't think so, Chief Justice. I think as judges, we are doing very well in the circumstance and even carrying ourselves very well, even on or off the bench. And even in deciding cases, I think we are doing our job very well.
So if there are judges who don't conduct themselves well, you would say there are exceptions?
There should be exceptions.
You haven't come across those?
I haven't, Chief Justice.
And you haven't come across those who, say on appeal, would be quick to agree with certain judges because they think it's better to agree with them, it's safer to agree with them than take a position that you really believe is the correct one?
I think a judge doing the judgment must be independent.
All right.
Must apply his or her mind, and if in doing so also agrees with other judges,
Yes.
it's only then that you can say you agree.
And you haven't come across any incident suggesting that others would just be too quick to agree with so and so for whatever reason?
No, Chief Justice.
Yes. Very well. Give us your vision for the Limpopo Division of the High Court, which is obviously subject to the Judge President's vision.
Yes, my vision for the Limpopo Division, firstly, it will be to support the vision of my JP. And that includes that there is efficiency in our division, there is accountability, and also to participate actively in the case flow management with my JP.
What problems have you, or challenges are you aware of that affects the better functioning of the court, and how do you intend to deal with them or to assist the JP and your colleagues to deal with if appointed?
Chief Justice, the challenges, there are two that I have identified in Limpopo. The first one, it relates to civil matters. That relates mostly to practitioners in Limpopo. I had a problem with their papers, the way they draw their papers, the arguments in court, and also the filing of heads of argument. And faced with that problem, I approached my JP and discussed that with him. And I further suggested to the JP if I can maybe draft a practice directive to attend to such concern. And my JP allowed me to do that, and I did draft a practice directive. In essence, Chief Justice, to deal with as relates to the papers, the typing, the font that has to be used, the size of the font, the spacing between the lines and the paragraphs, and furthermore, relate to the heads of argument, granted, they did file the practice note, but when coming to the heads of argument, it was like they will do a covering page headed heads of argument, but attached to that will be a replication of a founding affidavit or an opposing affidavit. So in the practice directive, I tried to explain what should be contained in the practice directive.
One of the practices that seem to delay the finalization of cases within a reasonable time is setting them down before they are trial ready, whether criminal or civil. What is it that we must do to ensure that only matters that are ready for trial are set down?
In that practice directive, Chief Justice, I first started to explain as to when can we say that the matter is ripe for hearing. And then I think once we pass that, then we can be able to finalize the matters that are before us timeously. I think also the practice directive and the practice note will make the judge's life a bit easier, because from the practice directive, you will be able to realize what is the relief that is sought, and whether there are any, or maybe let's say the relief sought. Secondly, the matters that are common cause, and whether there are any dispute of facts, and also what are those dispute of or material dispute of facts. And the other thing again is the onus of proof. It must be contained in the practice directive.
Now, how do we get there? What process must be followed? What steps, what mechanism must be in place to make that possible, to make it possible for all that needs to be done in order for a matter to be trial ready before it's set down?
I think
what must happen?
The first thing, this relates to case flow management.
Yes.
That's where it comes in, where we start with the case at that stage, and then it is only through case flow management where we will be sure that this matter is ready for trial. And that relates also to even to criminal matters.
What kind of, at what stage, no, let me not say at what stage, what kind of case flow management? What is it that judges, if any at all, must do to help ripen matters for hearing?
Chief Justice, if I maybe give an example.
Yes.
With what I have been doing in Limpopo. Mostly the matters that are on the roll in Limpopo are RAF matters.
Yes.
Then those matters, when they are put on a trial roll call, you find that they are settled partly on merits. So what I do, especially if I see that this matter is a bit old, I inquire from the parties as to whether, how far are they with the issue of quantum, whether the reports, the expert reports are already filed. And if that is the case, then I inquire further, how far apart are they in agreeing on the quantum?
Yes. And
then what I normally do is, you'll find that they are not that far apart. And even if this matter can go on trial, they're not going to lead evidence of any witnesses. Yes. So in that instance, we do a trial roll call on a Monday, and on a Tuesday, I do motion court. So what I do, I might adjourn the matter to a Wednesday, where I will deal with the argument based on only the expert records. Yes. And in that instance, I can even set down or adjourn 3 matters. I can hear 3 matters in one day. Yes. Because the issues are limited, and we can be able to finalize those matters in the time.
That's commendable. But there is an old practice which seems to be new because it's used very, very seldom, Tell me what you think of it. Whether it's a Pistorius matter or any other matter, the old practice for such matters has been much earlier legal representatives approach a judge and say, let's manage this matter so that all that needs to be done for it to be ready is done so that come the date of hearing, there is no question of postponement for further investigation. You did not give me this document, give it to me. I did not read it, give me a day to read it. It's all systems go. And the same applies to any other big civil matter that you might have that requires expeditious resolution. So judicial officers together with practitioners settle down how many witnesses are you going to call? Is that necessary? Those sort of things. Shouldn't it be put into operation so that we don't take up time enrolling matters that we know are not going to be heard because they are not ready to be heard?
It is true, Chief Justice. As I said that this is what I explained is what pertains to civil matters.
Yes.
I think it can be done in criminal matters. And also, I even suggested to my colleagues in Limpopo, when coming to criminal matters, that we hold a pre-trial conference. What happens is if the matter is due to start on a Monday, maybe 2 days before then, we sit down with the State Counsel and the Defense Counsel. And they must have consulted, the defense must have consulted with the accused. The state must have consulted with the witnesses. We know how many witnesses is the state going to call. We know how many witnesses is the defense, if any, are they going to call. And also to find out from the state if there are any other issues related, like maybe if they are going to lead evidence of a statement by the accused, which might lead in a trial within a trial. And even whether they are going to lead evidence of a 204 witness. In that instance, and also sometimes you find that they might even lead evidence on hearsay in terms of Section 31C of the 88 Act. So in that instance, the parties are not caught off guard. Once the matter starts, it's all system go. There's no way that the matter will be adjourned because I didn't know about this. I need time to prepare. Although sometimes it happens
Sure.
that.
Well, you have spent the better part of your judicial life in the KwaZulu-Natal division of the High Court. Is that not so?
That is correct.
And
Chief
you've been
Justice.
practicing this, which you are telling us about for some time, if I may lead you. Is that not so?
That is true, Chief Justice.
Yes. So you'll share your experience with your colleagues. That's what you're telling us.
That's true, Chief Justice.
Yes. Now, reserve judgments is threatening to be a problem. What are you going to do to ensure that there is no reserve judgment that you're not aware of, that you only learn about when people complain or when there's a story about it in the media?
I think, Chief Justice.
That is you and the JP, of course.
I think the Chief Justice, the best way to do this is if after every term there is a register where if there's any reserve judgment for the term, it must be recorded. And then that register must be monitored. If the judgment is reserved for a longer period or the next term again, there is still a judgment outstanding, then that's where is a problem. Then the JP or the DJP have to approach the judge concerned and find out what is the problem.
How often should that register be looked at or be revisited by the leadership of the court?
I think after every term.
Should it not be every month at least, so that you You keep abreast of the challenges in relation to judgments?
I think every month, Chief Justice, I must concede it is possible, and
Yes. Okay.
more that if it's every month, it helps that it shouldn't be more than, the judgment should not be reserved for more than 3 months.
Yes. No self-respecting man or court would like to be seen as being indifferent to gender representation or the need for gender representation. Now, to help the judicial system address this court as a woman, how would your appointment to the leadership position help you achieve this, which I assume you really want to achieve, and help other divisions to achieve? Gender representation.
Chief Justice, it is true that gender is something that is really important in this day and age. Well, thinking of myself, I believe it's a material consideration, the gender issue, but that should be coupled with the necessary experience and necessary competence to be on the bench.
But how are you going to help the courts identify people who can be appointed to the High Court and specialist courts of similar status and so on, and equip those at High Court level for the Supreme Court of Appeal and the Constitutional Court, if you have thoughts to share?
I think, Chief Justice, the other thing is that we might be lacking a pool of women to choose from. But I might maybe speak on what I might do, especially in Limpopo. I will definitely identify women whom I think that they have the necessary competency, and then encourage, and if need be, train them, and to become, maybe to encourage them to, or talk to the JP to invite them to come and act. And in that instance, once they come and act, that's where I can be able to assist in training them.
How do we prepare people appointed on the basis of potential to at least be effective in the execution of their judicial responsibilities, knowing that quite a good number of these reserved judgments come from those who had limited experience before they were appointed? And we don't want them to be embarrassed. We don't want the institution to be embarrassed. So how do we equip them properly before they come in and while they are there? Bearing in mind that many judges don't attend judicial training, judicial education training, even those who need it.
I think, Chief Justice, what I have realized that make the judges maybe to reserve judgments for a longer period, or many judgments, it's firstly, when you go into court for that matter, be well prepared for that matter. And once you are well prepared, even you will be able to follow the arguments in court. You'll be able to engage counsel. And at the end of the day, you know what is it that you want. And it's easy for one to make, to then go and write the judgment.
Yes,
but if not prepared, that's what sometimes causes that. I don't say it's the only thing,
sure.
But it may contribute.
You were previously interviewed for the position of Deputy Judge President, but that was for Limpopo, not Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal.
That is correct, KZ.
In addition to what you have said already, is there something you want to add in relation to the role you're going to play if appointed as Deputy Judge President for Limpopo to improve the system, or have you just about said all you can remember so far?
I think I have said what I can remember thus far.
Thank you, Judge Mokgohloa. Judge President Mokgohloa.
Good morning, Judge Mokgohloa.
Morning, sir.
Would you please share with us the managerial or leadership skills which you possess? Maybe start from the moment when you are a practitioner through your term as a judge in KZN until you recently came to Limpopo, and tell us what contribution would you make to make the new division a success?
Before I started practicing on my own, I was a partner in a company where we were 13 partners. And I was tasked with heading a branch in, the company was actually in Pretoria North and Pretoria, but I headed the branch in Ga-Rankuwa, and I also assisted in the branch in Hammanskraal. And during that time, that's when I started learning how to manage the practice. And after that, I then opened my own practice. I ran the practice alone, and during that term, I trained 2 candidate attorneys who, while after finishing their term, they wrote their board exams, and they were ultimately admitted as attorneys. And I think that actually helped me, because now running the office, it's not only going to court, it's also managing the staff, and also keeping your books, your account books in order. And that's what I did as an attorney. And then as a judge, I appreciate that I was never in a position where I was a senior judge during the term. But I was a senior judge in most instances during the recess duty. And in KZN, we used to have, even during the recess, motion court every day. And as a senior judge, I had to draw the roster. I have to assign matters to the judges that I will be working with, including myself. And I have also to appoint 1 judge who will have to go to Pietermaritzburg to help with the appeals, and also run the court during the recess duty.
Are you done, JP?
One more question. You talked of a practice directive which you drew up. Indeed so. I confirm that you approached me and made suggestion that in the motion court there are certain loopholes here and there. And I gave you a go-ahead to prepare such a directive. You did so. I vetted it. I added where I could add. Ultimately, I signed it off, and it's in operation. Did it bear any fruit?
It did bear fruits. I think after that practice directive was circulated, the applications in the motion court, there was a lot of improvement. The heads of argument were filed timeously, and also what was supposed to be included in the heads of argument were now included. And I think, to be honest, Chief Justice, that made, I can say, my life a bit easier, because I was able to deal with the motion court without any clinches.
One last question. When you arrived in Limpopo in January, it is so that I put you in the motion court. The idea being that you must meet as many practitioners as possible in order to adjust yourself to a new environment. I know there was a lot of work on your side You have to do civil trials, civil roll, motion court. Didn't you feel that maybe I was not throwing too much in the deep?
Not at all. I'm one person, I don't shy away from work. In the morning when I wake up with this mind that I'm going to work. And I think I felt very honored that I dealt with most of the civil work in Limpopo. And indeed, it helped me also to interact with practitioners, and that led to us, JP, drawing that practice directive. And it was not too much work for me. I feel actually honored to have done that.
Thank you.
Thank you, JP. Mr. Singh?
Thank you.
Mr. Singh, not Commissioner Singh.
Oh, sorry.
But you come after Mr. Singh.
Thank you, CJ. Madam Justice, in one of the cases that you've listed as a case against which appeal was successful was that of Sher and another versus Vermaak.
Yes.
Could you just briefly explain to this panel on what basis was the appeal successful? Briefly, please. Thanks.
I think in that instance, what the judges in the appeal stated was that I actually, because I found that there was a defamation of Mr. Vermaak, and they stated that the comments that they were complained of were actually fair comments, and it did not amount to a defamation.
Thank you, Chief Justice. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Commissioner Singh?
Singh and Singh, thank you very much, Chief Justice. Good morning, Judge
Morning.
Mokgohloa. I'm just looking at your employment history that you've submitted, pages 2 and 3. And I note that from the time you were an attorney in your own practice in January 2000, you held a number of acting positions until 2008.
Yes.
For short stints and short terms, which would have prepared you for your permanent appointment as judge in the KwaZulu-Natal division.
I think it did because, you know, being an attorney, you are only concerned with the defense side. But now being able to act as a magistrate, that's where now you look at this thing on both sides, whether on the state side and also on the defense side. And I think that acting stint of being acting as a magistrate, it helped me to balance my judgment.
Thank you for that. I note that your residence is still shown as Mount Edgecombe in Durban, close to me, which is very good. But now, since January, you are in Limpopo. What I'd like to know is your experience in the KwaZulu-Natal division. What was your experience like working with other colleagues in that division, and what prompted you to move to Limpopo? And if you are appointed, obviously you will have to permanently relocate to Limpopo. So can you just speak to that, please? Thank you.
My relationship with my colleagues in KZN was very good, and it's still very good. The reason why I moved to Limpopo is I originally come from Pretoria, or I was born in Pretoria, but originate from Limpopo. So I told myself when the time I was given this opportunity to be transferred to Limpopo, I said I have gathered enough experience now, which I can go and share with my people in Limpopo, and also help me to be closer to my family who are in Pretoria. And as to the relocation moving from Durban to Limpopo, I have done that already. I am in a process of buying a property in Limpopo, and I am selling one of the properties that I have in KZN. So I'm prepared to stay in Limpopo. Like I said, I'm in a process of buying a property there.
So finally, Chief Justice, through you, is that if you are appointed, you're actually going back home.
That is true, where I originate. And I think I will want to save my people there.
In Kabayako Kichuepela, Limpopo.
Commissioner
that is true.
Magadzi.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Judge Mokgohloa.
Morning.
You, in your CV, you indicated that there's a project in OD of the street law. Can you educate us what is the function of the project? I know it, I'm from that area too, and also indicate to us the impact that it does on the ground, this street law project.
I think this street law project, I did it when I was still an attorney in Ga-Rankuwa. What we used to do is, at the time, you will remember very well, people were not very clued as to their rights, their constitutional rights. And we had to go make road shows, inform people about their rights. But my passion was on the domestic violence thing. I have to explain to most women what this domestic violence is and how they can protect themselves using that piece of legislation. That is what I was dealing with. And also to explain to the people, mostly in Ga-Rankuwa, in Winterveld, in Mabopane, about, what is being done in court when they say that a person is granted bail. So that people should not fight and say, but this person is arrested today, tomorrow is granted bail. So that is what we were doing in OD.
Do you think, let me preamble it by saying that obviously the challenges are massive, in particularly the rural areas of Limpopo, in terms of the comprehension, understanding, and sometimes implementation of some of the critical things in terms of abuse. Would you say that resident in Limpopo, this will be an ideal, particularly dealing with women issues, that you're able to go reach out and touch and be able to do a similar thing? Because the impact that this street law in OD did really did a very massive thing, but you would want to do something similar in this regard. Having said that, you know that Limpopo is highly patriarchal. And I'm saying highly patriarchal, not undermining the other provinces which are having those type of things. In this instance, I want to ask you or check with yourself. There's a tradition or a customary practice that is being done in Limpopo, particularly in the royal houses, that once the chief or the traditional leader to be is no more, and it was one never married, then the royal house will go and look for a candle wife.
Yes.
And put the candle wife into a situation where you must give birth to a royal house and heir to the throne, which actually, when you look at most of those candle wives, they are very young women, very vulnerable, gullible. And the most challenging thing is when you give birth to a girl, not recognize another girl, not recognize until you give birth to a boy. But having said that, challenge becomes when you give birth to, firstly, a boy at 21. You, as a candle wife, you have to vacate the seat. You still have other children that you must take care of. Your stipend or your grant from government gets cutted. It gets given to the heir to the throne, and then you are left to fend for yourself. Don't you think that these are some of the things that somewhere we have to, as women, say, how do we deal with this? Because It's abuse also in essence. It's a challenge to these women who find themselves in that type of a situation. So I'm just trying to prolong what I'm trying to say, but having seen what the street law did, and I'm coupling it with this traditional customary setup, which is there in Limpopo, highly practiced. I can tell you that in the Sekhukhune area, there's a lot of candle wives that are there resident, and yeah, I've worked with them. I know what they are going through. Thank you.
Be as brief as you can.
Yes, I will just be as brief, Chief Justice. I'm glad that they raised this because I have two matters of a similar kind in Limpopo, which were brought during the motion court proceedings. And I have found that there are material dispute of fact, and I have referred same for hearing of oral evidence. And I am not trying to bribe my JP here. I would be very honored if I can deal with those matters because I have read them, I understand them, and in helping, definitely I will do that through my judgments.
Are you done, Commissioner? Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Magazi. Commissioner Modise.
Thank you, CJ. Good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
What would you consider to be your weaknesses or your strengths?
One of my strengths is that I'm a very good, I listen. I have that strength, it's to listen. And my weakness at times, although it's very difficult for one to accept that it's a weakness, but my weakness is I get a bit irritated if things are not done properly. And I will give an example. And this, I think, happened in Limpopo recently. My court starts at 10 o'clock, and I want everybody by 5 to 10 to be in court. The machine operator, the usher, my secretary, everybody must be in court. I cannot start court at 10:15 because there's no machine operator. And when that happens, I actually took them to task. I told them, if you are a machine operator and you come and tell me that the machine is not ready, you have to come into court at 9:30. Test the machine, test that the microphones are working properly, and then at 5 to 10, the usher must come and call me. I cannot allow people to wait for me in court. And I get very agitated with that.
That's a good one. I am also like that. But how do you deal with difficult people, including your peers, your legal practitioners, your litigants?
With difficult people?
Yes.
Maybe I don't understand. Difficult in which way?
Well, one of the areas you might have to deal with, the judge says she was born in Tshwane, you've been to Natal. In both provinces, you do have a serious question of sometimes having to deal with patriarchy, sometimes having to deal with ageism. But in your profession, there is a lot of issues around. I was here before you came.
Yes.
And that type of issues where people undermine you because of your gender or because of the period you came into the profession. How would you deal with it? It is important for us because as deputy, you would, I understand, have to deal with issues of administration, and that is where the difficulties usually arise. So it is necessary for us just to understand how you would navigate that space. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I will answer that more importantly if maybe I say, how would I work or maybe carry myself in a division where I'm only with male judges. And I will come to the difficult people later. I think when I started in my career, like I said, that I was a partner in a firm. It's there on my questionnaire, Hex, Tupel, and Ross. We were 13 partners. 12 of them were white male attorneys. I was never intimidated by them. One thing that I believe in is that you can only get out what you put in. I respect them as my colleagues, and I expect them to respect me. Another thing with me is that I'm a straight talker. If I'm not satisfied with something, I tell you. I don't talk to somebody else. I tell you. And I don't want to be looked down because I'm a woman. When coming to work, if we are judges, when coming to work, the gender thing, we will come back to it. But when coming to work, we work, and the work that is allocated to us should be equally. I must not be given maintenance matters because I'm a woman. I can also do other things. And that's it. And when coming to difficult people, you know, sometimes you will try to, you just have to understand a person as he or she is. And if he wants to be difficult, let him be difficult. But if I'm your DJP and you are my judge, and you want to be difficult, that's fine. But let's do the work. That's all. If I allocate work to you, I expect you to do the work. And then you can do your difficult thing afterwards. I don't mind.
Thank you, Chairperson. Judge President Komo.
Judge Mokgohloa, I'm going to be brief, but throughout there has been the question of the pool drying, of finding suitable women judges to appoint to the bench. And just as a preamble, the Gender Commission also complained to the JSC about the slow pace of transformation. Can you share with the JSC how in the Northern Cape, women have been drawn in to fill this gap, and you were a one-person practice. How, before you were appointed, you were assisted financially, very briefly?
Thank you. I think in Northern Cape, I always tell this to my colleagues, that I believe that in Northern Cape, that's where I realized how the JP has his heart in empowering women, especially in the judicial part. JP, it was not easy for us, I remember, in Northern Cape, because there were a lot of challenges that we faced. And more especially, I think I was also challenged because I didn't come from Northern Cape. I came from Gauteng. And it was a challenge that why should I come from Gauteng to come and act at the Kimberley? And I was even, I think you, JP, you were the one who was at one stage accused of bringing your relatives and your friends. And to be honest, I didn't know JP Komo until I went to Northern Cape on my first day to act there. And I didn't start by acting as a judge. I asked to be mentored. And I was mentored for 3 years. I didn't have a salary.
3 months.
3 months. I didn't have a salary. I didn't have a place to stay. I remember I have just bought a new car, not a brand new as such, but I had to sacrifice that. I have to sacrifice my luxury living, sort of, because I wanted to be mentored. And it was, I think, JP...
Can we just maybe cut it a bit short? Let me ask you this way. The Office of the Chief Justice and the USA
Yes.
then came in and you closed your practice and paid for you. My question is, where Sajay cannot fill this gap, would it assist if the Office of the OCJ and perhaps Treasury can assist people of potential to pay for you as the OCJ paid for you? I think they paid you 19,000 rand a month for a period of close to 2 years. Would that be correct?
Yes, that is true. And I think I share the same with you, JP, because I was still coming to say that I was assisted by USAID to pay for me when I was still being mentored. And I believe that really, if we have potential, we have to take care of that potential and also nurture it and also make sure that they at least receive something when they come to act.
Thank you.
Thank you, JP. Commissioner Foree.
Just a quick question. Good morning, Judge.
Morning.
I just want to refresh my memory on one or two issues. I see in your corporate profile next to your questionnaire, you say that you were a councillor of the Law Society of the Northern Provinces. When was that?
Councillor of the Law Society of Bophuthatswana.
Okay, so it's not the Northern Province.
It's Bophuthatswana.
Okay, and then you say you were a member of the Court Practice Committee of the Law Society of the Northern Provinces. When was that?
No.
Just under Council of the Law Society, there's, you say, member of Court Practice Committee, LSNP.
No, it's not on my profile. On my profile, on paragraph 7, it's Law Society of Bophuthatswana, and then it's Nadel.
Okay, sorry, no, I think I jumped the gun as far as that is concerned with the next candidate. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Thank you, sir.
That's when we should be calling order now.
Judge Mokgohloa, thank you very much. You're excused, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's go to break and wake up.